it might kind of cut into, somebody might ask the question, so this might preempt you asking the question anyway, but I'm only telling you this, not because I'm bragging, but because I want to tell you the second story, okay? I was in England recently, and I went to the set of Star Wars Episode 7.
Yeah!
J.J. Abrams was very kind. He sent me an email and said, hey man, I was thinking of you. Why don't you, how you doing, man? We started the movie. If you're ever in England while we're shooting, why don't you stop by and say hello and stuff? And we were just heading out to England with the Jay and Silent Bob Get Old Hollywood Babylon podcast tour. So I wrote him back and I was like, dude, I'm coming to London, man. So like, I will totally come visit the set. And he was like, oh, that rocks, man. So I'll put you in touch with my assistant. He put me in touch with Morgan and shit. And the plans were made for me to come visit, to see the fucking Star Wars Episode 7 set. Me, the guy who always blabs his mouth and shit. But still, I was like, right on. And that's when I started thinking about it. I told my wife, I was just like, fucking J.J. Abrams invited me to the set, man, to go to Episode 7. And she's like, I didn't think you and J.J. were all that close. And I was like, oh my God, you're right, man. It's like, it's not like we're friendly, but it's not like, you know, we go over each other's house very often and stuff. So I'm like going, oh my God, maybe this dude didn't mean to write me an email at all. Like maybe he meant Kevin Costner or some shit like that. So I got real tight about it, so I sent him an email back and I was like, hey man, looks like I'm coming to visit you, everything's cool and shit, but I just want to throw this out there in case maybe you hit the wrong Kevin in your address book, man. This is Kevin Smith, the guy that made Clerks. Sent the email and shit, and within 10 minutes got an email back from JJ, 2 words, just said, oh fuck. So they didn't cancel me and they let me go to the set for Star Wars Episode 7. I've talked about other places, so I'll do a truncated version of it for you here. I've thought about it a little since it happened and since I spoke about it that first weekend. You could probably see it somewhere online. But in a nutshell, I signed an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, not allowed to say a lot of the things that I saw, so I've been very careful about the things that I've said and whatnot. When I first got there, you walk onto the lot at Pinewood Studios, you get to the Lucasfilm offices, there is a sign hanging up where they make you sign the NDA. There's a sign hanging up, looks like one of those old World War II posters, you know, propaganda posters. And it features like Captain Nita or Admiral Piet from, you know, the Imperial Star Bridge of the Executioner or whatever. Two Imperial generals. One going like this. And it says, loose lips sink starships. And I was like, that's real cute, that's clever. And JJ's assistant was like, he hung that up just for you. So I was like, fair enough, fair enough. So I signed a bunch of shit, said I can't tell you what I saw and stuff, but I'll kind of work around it to tell you what was there. What was there, honestly, was absolute magic. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been, you know, doing what I do for a living, sometimes well, sometimes not well, depends on who you ask, for 2 decades now. And when you make the sausage, when you get to see behind the scenes and whatnot, it's not as magical anymore, I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I don't view movies through the same prism most people do. I don't view them as like, I would do that better, because I never would do that. Most movies I watch and be like, how'd they get that done? You know, I'm still fucking amazed 2 decades in. But 2 decades in, you know how movies come together. It's like knowing how the magician does the tricks. And even though you can enjoy a good stage show, at the end of the day, you know, it's movies, it's your job or something like that. So that's the prism through which I view most movies. That's why when movies capture my imagination or heart, like the Marvel movies or something like that, or fucking, you know, Batman movies, that like takes me back to a place where I'm like, oh, it thrills me. There's something inside that'll still fucking thrill me. So when I went to that set, man, I went like in a very clinical directorial fashion. I'm a guy who works in the movie industry and stuff, and I was lucky enough to get invited to the set of a sequel to a movie that when I was a kid, I was absolutely in love with. Those movies defined my childhood and stuff. So for me, I'm like, this is great, what a cool opportunity. But it was all here. Everything so far is in my head, my very clinical head and stuff, and I'm going, this is cool, I'm gonna go to the set, I'll see JJ, I'll see if they're making the movie, how they're making the movie, this is gonna be neat. And it was very superficial, so I get there, and it's a real world, you know, they had sets. It wasn't like a series of blue screens with somebody standing in front of like a coat rack and they're like, that's gonna be a fucking snow walker. You know, it's actual tactile set. I walked on a set that will actually be in the movie. One day I'll see the scene and be like, holy shit, I was there. I touched the walls of the, and I almost said it, but I touched the walls of the fucking thing. So I was on the set, I saw costumes, I saw, you know, artillery and shit like that. I saw things that, you know, I loved as a kid. It was interesting, man. I was walking across the set and I was like, this is great. He's getting it so right. Like, all the elements were right. It looked like J.J. Abrams had the best set of Star Wars figures ever and was making the best possible movie one could. So, you know, still, very clinically, I'm like, this is cool. Good for him, man. I like him. He's a real cool guy and shit. And he's trying like a fucking motherfucker to make a perfect Star Wars movie. So, you know, I'm like, this is neat. This is all great. Look at you. And I'm going down the list. You got this. You got this. This is so smart. Who's not going to go see this movie? Still very clinical about the whole thing. Still enjoying it on a professional level and shit. Then JJ told his assistant Morgan, he's like, take Kevin to stage M. And I was like, right on, we're going to fucking stage M, man. So, off to stage M, don't know what's on it and shit, but like, you know, I'm sure it's gonna be more Star Warsy and fun and whatnot, and I'm gonna be like, wow, this is all neat. Same way, right now, everything's cool, man. You take my pulse, it's normal. My heart's just beating normal and shit. They get me to stage M, they open up the doors, I walk onto the door, the set of stage M is dark, but you can see there's something fucking huge there and whatnot. There's a guy, British guy, because it's all in England where they're shooting it, right? British guy on whose job to watch the set. And he goes, do you want me to turn on the lights? And it was so creepy, I thought it was like in a castle movie and shit. Because we were in England, I was like, yeah, fucking please turn on the lights. And he turns on the lights, and it's not just the lights, you know, on the stage. All of a sudden I see a giant set, and what's the lights he means are the lights inside of what looks like from the outside, the Millennium Falcon. Now, it's on a movie stage, so from the outside it doesn't look like the Falcon as we know it in the movies, but the shape of it and shit like that, and I see these, the doors, the opening doorway, the door platform walks up onto the Millennium Falcon. I see it, so I'm like, oh shit, that must be the Millennium Falcon. I read online that people have taken pictures of it being built, and here it is and stuff. So I'm looking at it going, that's real cool. And Morgan goes, do you want to walk on it? And I go, oh fuck, yeah, absolutely. What a kick that'd be, man. Like, I ain't baked, I wish I was, because this would be amazing. You know, because I used to love Star Wars when I was a kid, and here I am on the set, and this is cool, and fucking, I never thought I'd be here, man, so fucking, let's go walking on the fucking set, and I'm gonna step onto the Millennium Falcon. And everything is still clinical, and everything is still right here. It's all in the head, man. And then I take one step on that platform. That same platform that when I was a kid, I had a small version of this fucking shit that was like my best friend in the world. I slept with it and hugged it because it was like a $35 toy. My parents were like, you better fucking love that. And I loved it, particularly in my teenage years. But the Wookiee did not win, I assure you. So there it is, man. I had that Millennium Falcon as a kid, and many times I walked my figures up the platform and stuff, closed the platform, picked it up, and sailed it through my house and whatnot, made my own version of a Star Wars movie, probably like a Kevin Smith movie, nothing happened, they just talked to each other a lot. But still, I had my own adventures and shit like that. So, first step on the landing platform, the walk pad. Fuck, I can't even say it. Pathway. What would you call it? Ramp. Apparently I smoked ramp away. It was worth it. Anyway, so there I am, first step on the ramp. And I swear to God, you know, I'm 43 years old, in about a month or so, less than a month, I'm gonna be 44. With my first step, my 40s disappeared. And then with my next step, I was deep into my early 30s and shit, and suddenly Cop Out disappeared. What a better world it was. Then I took another step and I was in my 20s, circa Clerks and shit. When I first got into filmmaking, I was like, oh yeah, this could be cool. I'll never make Star Wars, but like, I could make a movie too, and blah, blah, blah. And then the next step I take, man, I'm out of my 20s and I'm in my teenage years where, you know, I put Star Wars behind me because I'm like, you don't get pussy if you like Jedi, shit like that. Now you can, but when I was a kid, no. And then one more step, ladies and gentlemen, on the ramp of the Millennium Falcon, and I was 7 years old again. Fat little Kevin Smith, 7 years old, watching a movie called Star Wars and falling in love, starting a lifelong love affair that triggered my imagination I played with my Star Wars figures endlessly. I had a kid across the street, Pete King, who had come down from Brooklyn. He had even better Star Wars toys than me. We combined our two. We had a massive universe, and we would sit there and make our adventures together and whatnot, always featuring Boba Fett as the lead, fuck everybody else. And there I was, man. All that shit was gone. Like who I am, what I do for a living, the fact that like I know how the sausage is made, and all that bullshit that one tells themselves, you know, as they do something year after year after year, and it goes from being your dream to your job to your career and back, and sometimes like that. All of it was gone, everything stripped away, and I stood there feeling like a fucking kid, and I promise you, this is a true story, I swear to God, I was hit with a gut punch of emotion, and you know my gut's big, so the punch was massive, and I started crying. I just welled up, my eyes got glassy, and I just got emotional, and I just started crying, not in a blubbery like, but in a really like, like breathless, you know, absolutely could not believe what I was doing. Fuck the fact that I was like, oh, I'm standing on a set of the Millennium Falcon. I was on the Millennium Falcon. And it was so emotional, I start crying, and Morgan's standing next to me as assistant, and this poor girl's looking at me like, awkward. This fat man's having a midlife crisis on the Millennium Falcon. And you know, she sees me welling up and she's like, "Aw," and I was like, "Sorry." She's like, "Most people get excited when they see it." And I was like, "This is beyond excitement," you know, and I went, whole walk back to the set, because we went back to the set. I'm talking to her and I was just like, "You don't understand, man. Like, I was 7 years old, I fell in love with Star Wars. That's my first love." We get to the set, I give JJ the world's biggest fucking hug, and I thanked him from the bottom of my heart, because I was just like, you gave me that opportunity to do that, to dial back my clock. You made me believe in movie magic again. You literally built the Millennium Falcon, dude. You're doing it. You are building the field of dreams, and if JJ builds it, we're all gonna come hard over face, neck, and chest. Like, so it was wonderful, man. I saw old friends who were never really friends, but are people and characters that I love more dearly than blood relatives of mine, man. I saw shit that I haven't seen since I saw those movies a long time ago, man. I saw weapons that fucking, I saw some shit. And I want to tell you so much. But anyway, but it was beautiful, it was emotional, and if he captures 1% of what I went through on the Millennium Falcon on the screen, which I've seen, he showed me a fucking scene cut together, he's already fucking got it. I said, you're gonna make $1 bazillion bucks. It's the highest grossing movie of all time, dude, because it is a direct doorway to our childhood. Like, it's gonna take people back. And like, I don't like pissing on those other 3 Star Wars movies. I enjoyed them, but I went into those movies with that same clinical, like, I'm an adult. There's no way I could like those movies, these 3 new movies, the same way I liked, you know, fucking Star Wars and Empire and Return of the Jedi when I was a kid. I was a child, and now I'm an adult, and I can't see things the same way. And viewed through that prism, those 3 movies were perfectly acceptable, and I enjoyed them and shit. And even moments like Jar Jar, I could look at a kid next to me, and the kid next to me was enjoying it, so I'm like, your generation's stupid, but whatever. You know? But still, it's like, I took it for what it is. It's a perfectly pleasant children's movie and stuff like that. It's different. From what I saw of episode 7, it's like, fuck that horse shit. That's just lies. Lies you tell yourself to make yourself comfortable and shit. What he's doing is so important. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's making that movie that we're all like, oh man, I hope episodes 1, 2, and 3 are that movie. And I like episodes 1, 2, and 3. I'm not shitting in its mouth. But I'm telling you, what I saw of episode 7, the few scant moments I saw of episode 7, the weapon that Chewie held that made me cum in my pants. What I saw of episode 7, he's already fucking making what to me is the sequel to, not Return of the Jedi, ladies and gentlemen, Empire Strikes Back. It feels that strong. So anybody out there going like, oh, I hope he doesn't fuck it up, he's not gonna fuck it up. He's really crushing it and shit. Now, I told you that story. Thank you. I tell you that story simply so I can tell you these 2 PS stories. One, I started talking about being at the set, and fucking I was in Neuchâtel, Switzerland, at a film festival. It's also an episode of Hollywood Babylon in London, and I talked about it one night. So it was out there in the world, and I got an email from JJ. And he was like, dude, please shut your mouth. He's like, stop talking about the movie. And I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. I kept it as vague and spoiler-free as possible. He goes, dude, it's not that. The things you're saying are beautiful. Just stop telling people that you went at all. And I said, why? And he goes, because now everybody's calling Disney going, I want to go on the Millennium Falcon. And And I was like, fuck you, start charging them, man. All those rich people and shit like that. So that was, I thought that was cute. But here's the real reason I wanted to tell you that story. So that happened while I was out in England. And I had this amazing day on set. Before I went, I got the email going, hey, come visit the set. So I asked my wife to come with me. I was like, I didn't even ask her. It's just expected when you're married. You do everything together except shit. So she's like, we're going to the set. And then I got an email going, oh, it's just you for security reasons. Hope you understand. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, fuck her. And so, she's like, all right, fuck, go have fun at Star Wars. I was like, I will. And I went off to a galaxy far, far away, and my clock got dialed back, and I fell in love with movie magic again and whatnot. I was like, wow, there is a bit of very pixie dust in the air, man. There's a little bit of wonder here. This is neat. So I come back to the hotel, and all I want to do is get the experience down. I didn't have anything with me, to record. I usually podcast and stuff. So I just wanted to put all my feelings down. Everything pretty much that I said to you guys, put it down on paper and whatnot. So I get back to the hotel, furiously journalizing about what I saw on the set of Star Wars. And my wife, since I was out doing that, she was out with Jason's wife, Jordan, and they were having wine and whatnot. So she came back to the room, and she had had a few drinks in her. And so she was like, how was Star Wars? And I was like, it was fun, man, it was amazing. I stepped on the Millennium Falcon and I cried, and she's like, baby. And I was like, I was a baby, but it was worth it. And she was going, I'm glad you had a good time and stuff. And I was like, I'm just gonna write that, I gotta finish writing. I was sitting here writing, she goes, okay. So I go back and I'm writing more about Star Wars. And so since she's had a few drinks in her, all of a sudden a few minutes later, she comes out to me where I'm in the living room part of the hotel room. And she's just wearing like a hockey jersey and nothing else, which is, you might as well just fucking be wearing nothing else. That's what makes it for me, right? So she's like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I just gotta finish writing. She's like, do you wanna come play? And I was like, oh, fuck yeah. As soon as I finish writing about Star Wars. Which is such a big mistake. And she's sitting there going, are you fucking serious, Kevin Smith? Like when she gets a few drinks in her, she uses my last name, like a critic. And she's like, are you sure, Kevin Smith? You don't want to fuck, you want to write about Star Wars and shit? And I was like, yes, I have to get it off my chest. Let me get this off my chest and I'll get it all onto your chest. And stuff. Just like, let me finish this and stuff. So I finished writing and whatnot, and then finally I join her, and first she's giving me shit because I didn't go right into it. And I had to get it out, I had to get it out. Now I can concentrate on you, So, there we are having sex, and, when she's had a drink or two, generally, she's a bit more administrative, shall we say. So I get bossed around a little bit more, and she starts with this, harder, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I gotta work now? Because I'm still thinking kind of about Star Wars and shit. So she's like, harder. I was like, okay. And I'm not a fucker, ladies and gentlemen. Like, you don't picture me on top of her, because you would picture a woman in jeopardy, like, because if I lose my balance, fucking she's dead. I lay down and she's on top of me, and everything happens on top of me, like a fucking fun park. So there she is up top and whatnot, and she's going harder. I'm trying to push back, but I got a bed under me, and I got no traction and stuff. So, plus I got all this undulating flesh, so it looks like Java's trying to cross the floor or something. And she keeps going, harder. I was like, I'm trying. Dude, this is the fucking moment. This is why I told you the Star Wars story, because this is my favorite thing. You'd imagine that fucking Star Wars visit was the best thing that happened that day? It wasn't. This next part was the best thing, and I told Frank, I love this. Anyway, I'm trying my best, trying to, give it what she needs, and I can't, apparently I'm not meeting the demands. Harder. I was like, I'm trying. She goes, use the Force, fucker! So the next morning, man, like, she didn't remember. Next morning, I was like, do you know what you said last night? And I told her, she was like, oh my God, never tell anybody that story. Anyway, that's how we began Comic-Con. Now we turn it over to you guys. What we're going to do is chit-chat for a while, and then I'm gonna bring up Haley and Genesis, and then we're gonna see the trailer for Tusk. And before we dive into that, let's dive into some Q&A. You first set the tone. I'm gonna try.